and say we're making some of the same mistakes we thought we had a year ago.
This last fall, that was the mantra. They wanted to take a step, didn't quite happen, and so back to the drawing board for Chicago again with their young core, 1 year older, and the opportunity for more of them to grab jobs, as you say, on a full-time basis. Okay, the Colorado Avalanche. So Brent Burns, the Ironman streak continues, we think. Signs a 1 year deal with Colorado. There was that trade with Columbus that we talked about earlier that freed up some cap space for them. And, you know, you touched on the Sidney Crosby rumors and everything that was floating around draft weekend. But they're a team that needs some bodies at forward, though, Elliot. So what do you think the Avalanche are thinking?
Well, first of all, on Burns, I have to correct something. I reported it was a $1 million base with up to $3 million in bonuses. I was wrong a little bit. It's a $1 million base with $4 million in bonuses. And the thing I got confused by, and it's my fault, it's that someone told me it was $3 million in attainable bonuses, and I took that to mean those were all the bonuses there. Someone reached out to me to say that there's another bonus in there, $1 million, but it's harder to get. So I don't know what the exact bonus structure is, but it basically sounds like 3 of the 4 million in bonuses he's going to get. There's another $1 million that's harder to get. And I think it's based on playing time. So it'll come down to how much he plays. And I was just told it's harder to get. So let me correct that. It's not 1 + 3, it's 1 + 4. And I wanted to correct that right here, because I only found out about it just before we actually taped this part of the podcast. Those first two forward lines look great, Kyle. Phenomenal.
For sure.
Especially with Landeskog. Like, that was one of the best stories of the season, that not only did Landeskog come back, but he looks like he's going to be a player. Taking out Coyle and Wood, and as we talked about with Columbus, it sounded like if you wanted to get Coyle, you had to take Wood. Wood needed a fresh start. It just didn't work out, and Colorado tied those two together. So they created cap room, but as you said, they opened up some spots on the third and fourth line. I would just expect that the Avalanche are going to keep looking. They have some flexibility. Like, they've really been in a difficult cap situation for a lot of the past couple years, while Landeskog was battling his injury and his recovery, and Nichushkin was having his concerns. They had no flexibility. So I don't think that the Avalanche are disappointed with the fact that they finally have a little bit of salary cap flexibility, and I think they'll save that to see when they find the optimum place to use it. The thing about Burns too is that I think that guy's still got a lot to give. In Carolina, it's not like they didn't want to keep him. It's just that they told him his role was going to decrease. And I've seen this before, where players are like, well, even if they're being told the truth by their team, they've got such pride, sometimes they'd rather go somewhere else and take a lesser role than the place where they already are. And that obviously happened to Burns here. I think he'll be very good there. I mean, they've got Makar ahead of them. They've got Manson on that side too. So we'll see. But Burns, I still think he's got a lot to give. I just think that Carolina told them the role wasn't going to be the same there. Like, I think Colorado's really good. It'll be interesting to see Necas. Full season there. Looked great initially there. Is he going to commit to them? And if the answer is no, what is Colorado going to do about that? That's going to be one of the interesting questions throughout the year. So those are the two things I'm looking at with the Avalanche. What is Necas' long-term future? And what is Colorado with cap room for the first time in a long time without injury and roster concerns? How are they going to deal with it? I still think this is a really good team. and write them off at your own peril.
Well, especially when you consider, so remember in 2021, Colorado loses to Vegas. McKinnon had the line about 8 years in the league, haven't won anything. The next year, they win a cup.
I don't think that's what he said exactly.
I left a few words out.
You're
I'll let
paraphrasing?
the listeners submit what I missed, piece it all together. But this year, after losing to Dallas, then he had the line, well, they didn't have their best defenseman and maybe their best forward, and we still couldn't beat them, so I don't know what we're going to do. So look out for whatever kind of warpath that Nathan McKinnon is going to be on next year with Colorado.
And also, don't forget that Makar can sign an extension next summer, and who knows what that's going to look like. I think they took a shot at Ehlers, but obviously they didn't get him.
By the way, some of these performance bonuses that we're seeing handed out over the last little week, Elliot, it's like lucky at the card table.
Yeah. Got to get
Throwing
them,
your
though.
chip there.
Yeah.
You got to get them. All right, the Dallas Stars got a lot of their own business done over the last week, including the hiring of their new head coach, Glenn Gulletson. You had thrown that name out there pretty early on in the process. Second tour of duty back in Big D. There's still the question of Jason Robertson, who is eligible for an extension. We talked about him a lot. You said they're going to try to sign him. To your knowledge, where do things stand right now?
I think this one purely comes down to the number. I think the Dallas Stars think very highly of Jason Robertson, especially as a person. I think that Robertson thinks highly of the Stars. I just think it comes down to the number. Other thing to remember here is Dallas has some flexibility in the sense that he's not, even though he's got 1 year left under his contract, he's not unrestricted for 2 years. Like, there is a restricted arbitration year. So in theory, they could just sit there and say, we could have him for 2 more years at this year's number 7.75 and next year's ARB number if they really wanted to do that. I just think it comes down to the number. I think Dallas has an area they don't want to go over, and the question is, does Robertson, want to go over that? I can't imagine they want to go over Rantanen, which is 12. And so, we'll see. People, the thing you have to remember here is people want to play in Dallas. So if Robertson wants to stay there, and I have no reason to believe he wants to leave, then you tend to find ways here, right? So that's the way I always look at it. I just think Dallas is a limit they're not willing to go by. I wasn't expecting Dallas to be busy. Duchesne wanted to stay. It got done. Ben wanted to stay. It got done. And you forget he had 50 points